Playboy was one of the hottest magazines ever. It was racy, scandalous, and played a huge part in America's sexual revolution. But behind its glamorous facade lay a chilling underworld hidden from public view. What really happened behind the velvet curtain? Number 1. Holly Madison.
I always wanted to be in Playboy.
The Playboy lifestyle was once the dream for many young women. However, things aren't always what they seem.
Hey, I'm Holly. I'm originally from Alaska, and I live now at the Playboy Mansion. I'm Hef's #1 girlfriend.
Holly was only 21 when she was first invited to the mansion. Hugh would have been in his 70s at the time.
After Hef's and my first date, I moved in 2 days later. I guess you could say we're made for each other.
In the mid-2000s, Holly, alongside 2 other girlfriends, Bridget and Kendra, starred in the hit reality show, The Girls Next Door.
It's the best relationship I've ever had. He says it's the best relationship he's ever had, but I don't know if I believe that. He might just be saying that.
From the outside, being a Playboy bunny seemed like a life of luxury and fun. But under all the glitz and glam of the Playboy mansion was a hidden dark side.
We were all kind of gaslit and expected to think of Hef as like this really good guy. And you started to feel like, oh, he's not what they say in the media. He's just a nice man.
Since leaving the mansion, Holly has described the experience as cult-like.
Another thing that reminds me of a cult is how it was so easy to get isolated from the outside world there. You had a 9 o'clock curfew. You were encouraged to not have friends over. You weren't really allowed to leave unless it was like a family holiday.
Many claimed the mansion bunnies were not allowed to have boyfriends because they were all Hugh Hefner's girlfriends.
The sex always happened kind of like the same time, the same night.
During Holly's first intimate experience with Hugh, she was allegedly offered Quaaludes. However, Holly refused and turned to heavy drinking to make it through the night.
You know, when I first moved in, there were 6 other girls, and it just seemed like everybody wanted to get all that kind of thing over with very quickly and didn't really seem into it.
In a disturbing twist, she revealed that the girls would all sleep with Hefner together.
We would go out to a club every Wednesday and Friday, and that would be expected when we got home.
Life as the #1 girlfriend wasn't easy.
And I was warned about those games by one of the other girls who'd been there longer than I had.
Hugh allegedly got a kick out of pitting his girlfriends against one another.
She always said, you know, Hef always plays the main girlfriend against the youngest girlfriend to make them jealous.
Despite this warning, Holly was naive.
And I didn't believe her because I thought, you know, here's Hugh Hefner. He's this older, accomplished, very intelligent man. Why would he be so petty?
The Playboy bunnies were constantly body-shamed, which was just another way to pit them against each other.
So strange looking back on it because there's really not much of a variety in the way the 3 of us looked, but for whatever reason, we were always made to feel like Kendra was the only one with a good body.
In season 2 of the show, Holly, Bridget, and Kendra filmed a workout video together. However, Bridget was made to feel much bigger than the other 2.
Definitely Hef. He liked his women very, very thin.
At the time, the culture of the mansion also affected how the girls felt about their bodies.
Everybody's beauty standard was kind of, oh, a woman is supposed to be really young and really thin and really in shape, and if she's not in shape, she's not doing it right.
Sadly, Holly's experience in the Playboy mansion really affected her mental health.
You know, as far as body dysmorphia, I try and be very gentle with myself and focus on health. It's never completely gone. Like, I'm still very self-critical.
Holly experienced depression during her time with Hef, and after leaving the mansion.
I think when you suffer from depression, it never truly goes away. Things can trigger it or bring it back.
But did Holly actually love Hugh Hefner?
I think I definitely thought I was in love with Hef, but it was very Stockholm Syndrome.
Holly unexpectedly left the mansion in 2008 after 7 years of being Hugh's girlfriend.
When I decided to leave the mansion, I did it in part because my mental health just couldn't take it anymore.
When Holly was younger, she experienced difficult social situations and felt like she was on a different wavelength to other people her age.
I think me feeling like I could be in love with an older man, part of that was because I hadn't really connected with boys my own age my whole life.
Now, on a joint podcast venture called The Girls Next Level, Holly and Bridget reflect on their negative experiences as Playboy bunnies.
I was just going through so much, you know, mental health turmoil that I confided in him, and he just didn't care. Like, he just loved the drama. He loved being fought over.
Number 2, Crystal Hefner.
I realized Hef controlled the narrative for so long, 70 years, and I think more truth needs to come out of the mansion.
Hugh Hefner's wife met him when she was 21 and he was 81. But when he died, she revealed the dark secrets of the Playboy mansion.
The date of the wedding, can I tell him?
Sure.
It is June 18th.
June the 18th.
This year, Saturday.
Until recent years, Playboy had an impressive reputation. Everyone wanted to party with Hef and the bunnies at the mansion, including Crystal.
My friend asked me if I wanted to submit a photo to go to the Playboy mansion.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I'd ever be picked, but I was.
According to Crystal, this was a vigorous process.
There's like a whole office of people that are just dedicated, at that point, just dedicated to finding girls for parties.
This team picked girls based on what they thought Hugh Hefner would like before inviting them to the mansion.
Once the girls go up there, they take a Polaroid of you, in like the parking garage, basically. And those are the photos that Hef sees.
The girls were still allowed to party at the mansion, but what they didn't know was that they were being rated.
But then after that, you're getting rated by Hef. It's like A, B, C, D.
It was at this Halloween party that Crystal and Hugh Hefner met for the first time.
Went back home and he called me and asked me to move in.
Crystal initially thought that her dream was coming true, especially since Playboy had such a glamorous image.
Growing up, I would see Playboy magazines. I would see these women and think, wow, they're powerful, they have the world at their feet, and I would idolize them.
But Crystal claimed the arrangement was about to get intimate very fast.
Yeah, this sex part was not enjoyable.
It was then that Crystal claimed that intimacy was always a group activity.
I would ask somebody specific to like, oh, can you come up? Because I didn't want to do it by myself.
The one Christmas, Hugh Hefner proposed to Crystal. Well, kinda.
He just said, I hope it fits. And it didn't. It was too big.
Hugh Hefner died in 2017, which ignited a range of mixed emotions in Crystal.
First, I felt guilty, wondering if there's something I could have done to help him more. But after a while, I realized he did a lot of damage. In the beginning, Hef would tell me things like, dye your roots, or wear the right color, wear the flag, which is the Playboy logo. And he told me I was gaining weight. And so I just thought, oh, I'm slipping. I need to be the best I can be for him. And
Crystal alleged that her husband even told her what to say in public interviews.
I love Hef. He's the nicest person I've ever met in my entire life. I have so much fun with him.
Even though Crystal earned money by living in the mansion, she still claimed to struggle.
he would give me enough, but not ever enough to leave. $1,000 every Friday that I had to beg for.
To make matters worse, Crystal said she felt alone, as she didn't really have friendships with the other girls.
I think Hef ingrained in us on a cellular level to despise each other.
Remember, Crystal was only 26 when she married an 86-year-old Hugh Hefner.
After I left the mansion, I went into therapy and realized that, that place messed me up more than I thought it did.
Recently, Crystal released a tell-all memoir about this experience.
When I was 21, I felt like such an adult, but I wasn't. And now I'm 37 and thinking about myself at 21, like I was such a baby. I was.
She said the relationship facade started falling apart in her mind.
Thought, oh, this man can't really love me if he wants multiple people in the bedroom all the time. All he talks about is himself. All he wants you to talk about is himself.
Now, Crystal said she felt strong enough to take back control.
Did Playboy help the world or did it hurt the world?
What do you think?
I think it hurt it.
Crystal is in the process of legally changing her name back to Crystal Harris.
Does the name Hefner now disgust you?
Yeah, I never liked it.
Thankfully, after years of therapy, Crystal is finally healing.
I lost myself in that place and to Hef, and I'm glad I'm back to me.
Number 3, Dorothy Stratten.
I just graduated from high school when I was approached by Playboy.
This is how one of Hollywood's rising stars and biggest Playboy figures was killed by her own husband. But how was Hugh Hefner blamed for this?
She was very innocent in a den of wolves. Everyone wanted a piece of her for their own reason.
In 1977, 18-year-old Dorothy Stratten met 26-year-old Paul Snyder when she served him at a local Dairy Queen.
I had him waiting on him at the Dairy Queen, 2 little pigtails and a little red smock on, and I said, "Can I help you?" And he says, "What's your name?" And it happened from there.
The two began dating, but Paul was eager to make it in show business as a club promoter and a pimp, and thought that Dorothy might be his way in.
Dorothy was a ticket to something that he wanted. It was a connection with Hollywood, it was a connection with Playboy, it was a connection with celebrity.
Paul later organized for a photographer to take professional nude photographs of Dorothy, which he sent to Playboy. The photographs gained Dorothy a lot of attention, and she quickly became one of Playboy's most exciting stars, being showered with wealth as Hugh Hefner eyed her up for a future in acting. However, many around her were aware that her naivety and inexperience could lead to her being taken advantage of.
She was about as naive as anybody that I'd ever met in Los Angeles. And I said to Paul, "Paul, do you care about her?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, If you really care about her, take her and take her back to Vancouver.
Paul saw Dorothy's success as his ticket to success and began accompanying her to Hollywood's most elite events at the Playboy Mansion.
Dorothy made this incredible impression. Everybody loved her, and almost everyone was universally put off by Paul. He was a wheeler dealer and a very obvious one.
It soon became clear that Paul was not as popular as his girlfriend. Despite his best efforts to impress the stars around him, many saw him as out of place or just plain creepy.
You see beautiful girls and you see the people that they choose to be with, and you always ask yourself, what the hell is she doing with that guy?
The couple got married in 1979.
One day she said, well, we got married. I was like, why'd you do that? She said, well, I didn't see how I could get out of it.
However, the pair's marriage didn't stay happy for long, as Paul became more and more jealous of his wife's popularity and success. Paul feared he was only invited to the parties because of Dorothy, which was confirmed when he was refused entry to the mansion after being caught with another woman at a party.
He thought he and Hefner were so tight. There was definitely a profound psychological change in him when he was no longer welcome at the mansion.
As their marriage began to break down, Dorothy started an affair with one of Hollywood's most exciting directors, Peter Bogdanovich.
Compared to Paul, Bogdanovich was a prince.
Paul soon became extremely jealous, hiring a private investigator to follow Dorothy, who felt bad for cutting him off.
I think she felt guilty because she was having an affair with Bogdanovich. I think she felt that she owed him. She owed it to him to see him in person.
After persistent pestering, she finally agreed to meet Paul at his home to talk things through. Little did she know, Snyder had far more sinister plans in mind.
She just didn't come back. She didn't come back for hours.
After being with her for less than an hour, Paul shot Dorothy with a 12-gauge shotgun. Not long after, he turned the gun on himself. Their bodies were later discovered nude by his roommates.
Our evidence uncovered at the scene, our interviews with the friends of the couple, leads us to believe at this time that it was a murder-suicide.
Dorothy's murder shocked Hollywood, but the news that Paul was the killer was expected by many. Peter Bogdanovich had to be sedated after hearing the news of his lover's death, and later blamed it on Playboy, Hefner, and Hollywood in general. He later released a book accusing Hefner of sexually assaulting Dorothy and a range of other concerning anecdotes from the Playboy Mansion.
The stories that are in there were told to me by Dorothy or by other witnesses to the events.
There was a darker side to it. The darker side involved Peter, and he blamed everybody, I think, connected to her, except himself, and including me.
Ultimately, many see Dorothy as a victim of an exploitative industry that took advantage of a young woman hoping to achieve her dreams. Number 4. Bill Cosby. More than 50 women have come forward with abuse allegations against Bill Cosby, a close friend of Hugh Hefner and frequent guest at the mansion.
Jurors at a civil trial in Los Angeles have found that comedian Bill Cosby sexually abused a 16-year-old girl at the Playboy Mansion in 1975.
Judy Huth testified that in 1975 in the Playboy game room, Cosby exposed himself to her, then forced her to perform a sex act on him at the mansion when she was just 16.
It's been torture. It has. Just to be ripped apart, thrown under the bus, backed over, and this to me is such a big victory.
The jury ruled that Cosby was to pay her $500,000 in damages.
It took Judy Huth 47 years to bring this case before a jury, and they found in her favor in just 2 days.
Las Vegas model Chloe Goins filed a civil lawsuit claiming that Cosby drugged and assaulted her at the mansion in 2008.
And on their way to the bedroom, Chloe blacked out. She doesn't remember anything after that point until waking up with no clothes on.
And his comment was incredible. Here's what he said. I know people are tired of me not saying anything, but a guy doesn't have to answer to innuendos. People should fact check.
PJ Maston alleged that Bill Cosby offered her a spiked drink which allowed him to rape her. The next day, he sent her a 4-foot ficus tree as a gift.
I told my boss, my immediate boss, after it happened, her reply to me was, do you realize that this is Hefner's best friend? Mm-hmm. Nobody's gonna believe you. Shut your mouth.
In 2017, Cosby was brought to trial for allegedly molesting a 15-year-old girl at the Playboy Mansion in 1974.
I believe that Mr. Cosby drugged me and sexually assaulted me that night. His behavior was like that of a predator.
The year before, another woman who accused Bill Cosby of assaulting her at the Playboy Mansion in 2018 added Hugh Hefner to the lawsuit. claiming he had knowledge of Cosby's behavior and did nothing. In 2018, Cosby was convicted of drugging and molesting a woman at his home in 2004 and was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison.
Deputies led him out of the courtroom in handcuffs after the judge handed down his prison sentence.
He was released after serving almost 3 years.
Pennsylvania Supreme Court has overturned his sex assault conviction, and tonight he is a free man.
Hugh made a statement saying, "Bill Cosby has been a good friend for many years, and the mere thought of these allegations is truly saddening. I would never tolerate this kind of behavior, regardless of who was involved." Number 5. Gloria Steinem. Feminist and political activist Gloria Steinem went undercover as a Playboy bunny for a month and documented it in a 2-part diary format story called A Bunny's Tale.
I'm sure that I got from my father this love of freedom, of independence, of not being accountable to anyone.
Gloria worked as a journalist in New York before going undercover at one of the Playboy clubs.
On the one hand, it was a piece of investigative journalism. On the other hand, I then spent years, and even now, I'm identified as an ex-bunny.
Gloria created a persona 4 years younger under the fake name Marie Catherine Oakes, with a resume filled with waitressing experience in London and as a dancer hostess in Paris. She was allegedly made to wait hours to have Polaroids taken of her, and was told that 24 was awfully old. She was actually 28 at the time. She eventually made it into a skin-tight blue satin bunny costume, and plastic dry cleaner bags were stuffed in her bosom to make it appear fuller. She then had to undergo a chest x-ray and an internal physical.
It was just trying to make sure that women who, were then encouraged or forced into sexual activity did not have venereal disease.
She didn't think she would make it past the auditions, but since they were desperate for employees,
Well, they were taking anything that moves. I mean, it's
she reported that bunnies were paid much lower than the $200 to $300 a week they were promised. It seemed Hefner's sexual revolution was simply the exploitation of women.
because it is a lousy job. They were advertising that you would earn much more money than you actually earned.
She claimed the bunnies were responsible for buying their own heels that had to be at least 3 inches, nylons, false eyelashes, and had to pay for the costume's upkeep. They received 1 meal a day, and the backstage bunny area was also inadequately heated. She also alleged that bunnies had to always look cheerful and stick to scripted lines and moves. The bunny dip used a backbend to place a drink down on a table.
If you go down, arch your back like that. It brings you much closer to the table.
She reported that men would offer cash or their hotel room keys.
Full of pathetic guys who had no other way to be dominant, and it was also profoundly racist.
Playboy ended up suing her for $1 million. She spent many hours in depositions and on the receiving ends of threats. Eventually, the newspaper settled out of court.
When anybody wants to put me down, they say, well, she was once a bunny.
Still? You still get that?
I still
Gloria
get that.
Steinem? You get that?
Yes, I still get that. Right.
Number 6. Pamela Anderson. Pamela Anderson had a chaotic life, a sex tape scandal, and a whirlwind marriage. But what was her experience with Playboy really like, and how did it affect her life?
Those tapes were not meant for anybody else to see, and I've not seen it to this day. It was very hurtful. It was really devastating. This really did not help our marriage.
Pamela Anderson's big break came when Hugh Hefner saw her in an advertisement. He immediately got someone from his company to call her.
The phone rang, and it was Marilyn Grabowski from Playboy, and she said, would you like to come down and do a Playboy cover?
The model accepted the offer and flew to LA. During her first photo shoot with the magazine, she felt a whirlwind of emotions.
I was so nervous, and I remember a woman touching my breast. I was so shy.
Exciting, nerve-wracking.
I was nauseous. I felt empowered by it. I felt like a woman.
Her days at Playboy also gave her perspective.
Girls are just really hard on themselves. And then you realize, now I tell women, just the sexiest thing you can be is confident.
After modeling for years, she was offered to act in the hit series Baywatch.
I just didn't think that was even in the cards for me. I had no idea what that even meant.
When looking back, Pamela realized that not having an agent and being represented by Playboy was misguided.
You make like $1,000 a year on Baywatch residuals, like in total.
Right.
How's that possible?
Hefner wasn't looking out for you. Hefner made money off of you, as many people did.
The model became one of the most recognizable sex symbols around the world, and fans were obsessed with her. During that time, the actress claimed she had to watch out for industry professionals trying to take advantage of her and sleep with her.
don't go into a hotel room alone. If someone answers the door in a bathrobe, leave.
In 1995, after knowing him for only 4 days, Pamela Anderson married the drummer Tommy Lee, and the public became obsessed with them.
He would arrive at the house on a horse covered in full knight gear on, knight in shining armor, and read a scroll to me. It was just so hyper heightened.
But things took a turn. Rand Gauthier, a disgruntled electrician working on their house, stole their safe where he found a sex tape. He took it to a pornographic company where it was distributed around the country.
Never a tape made for distribution or a sex tape. It was home movies they spliced together.
It immediately became a scandal, and the couple sued the company and eventually reached a settlement. But everyone had already heard of the video. Thankfully, Pamela has bounced back from the dark days.
So I wanted to be the best rock star wife. I wanted to be the best Baywatch, the best Playboy playmate. But now I am me. I'm more me than I've ever been.
In the past, Pamela has also opened up about abuse she claimed she endured when she was younger.
A babysitter, she molested me when I was, probably about 6 years old. I didn't tell my mother for a long time, and even when I told her, she went, "Oh, well, that's in the past. Don't even think about it anymore."
Over the years, the couple was over-sexualized by the media. Pamela attempted to keep that side of her life away from her children.
And I was getting in the car, and Brandon came out, "Mom, do you know what Hef does for a living?" I was like, "Oh, God. What?" And he goes, "He takes pictures of naked girls." And I was like, "Oh my God, get in the car. Let's get out of here."
Pamela's children began being teased for their mother's past. She felt responsible for causing the world to see her as that blonde bombshell.
I was surrounded by, sexy lifestyle. So sometimes I would feel like I'd brought it upon myself when people talked badly to me.
In 2020, Hulu announced the show Pam and Tommy, which would cover the couple's tape scandal.
It was interesting to hear about it. Didn't make me happy.
It was then that the actress decided to write a memoir of her experiences during that time.
It was time just to kind of tell my story from start to finish.
She went on to release a documentary about her life with the help of Netflix.
This documentary is coming out. Then I can put all of this behind me.
Number 7. Growing up in the mansion. Hugh Hefner's sons, Cooper and Marston, grew up on the property next to the mansion. Cooper said his parents kept him sheltered from the parties next door.
I think my dad lived a sort of life of, be a part of this experience and be a part of this brand, and in return, you get to be a part of my narrative. If you're upstairs and your parents are having a Christmas party, you're gonna sneak downstairs and, try and figure out what's going on and why you're not invited to the party.
The grotto, the pool cave featuring a hot tub, was known for parties, as well as being an area that superspread Legionnaire's disease due to the amount of people and germs. However, Cooper remembers it for the Indiana Jones-inspired adventures he embarked on as a kid. He also enjoyed playing hide-and-seek and visiting the game room with his friends.
There's a mattress underneath the floor, so it feels as though you are literally walking on a mattress.
Cooper recalls in middle school his class would take field trips to his house. The private zoo featuring African cranes, flamingos, peacocks, and even squirrel monkeys was a big attraction.
These are squirrel monkeys, and I'm warning you now that they get very feisty when you start feeding them.
But Marston also recalled negative experiences with the staff who worked at the mansion.
The staff were really mean to me because it was kind of like I was the son who was like living off of my father's success, is my guess of what it was. Idled, they felt like I didn't really belong.
He also said he thought his father might have a form of OCD, as he was very specific about the food he ate.
He liked a certain food, and that was the only food that he liked, and it had to be not lamb chops, it had to be the mansion's lamb chops recipe. Like what is that? Is that OC? Is that like obsessive compulsive? Is it autism?
He also commented on the curfews that his father would impose on the bunnies.
Why did he need control that bad, right? Because even with the ladies, the curfews, he needed that to feel, and I don't know why.
Marston remembers that originally, Girls Next Door was going to be about him and his brother, and would be titled Growing Up Hefner. But he was distinctly nervous by this idea.
And if you're nervous about something like that, then you're probably not going to be like a good presence on TV.
He says everyone at school was watching and talking about Girls Next Door when it aired.
I was a little stuck up, and I thought that, my father was an intellectual, and this isn't what intellectuals do.
Marston went on to write a book called High School Romance, published in 2022. It was influenced by his father, exploring the topics of love and societal taboos.
I think a lot of my life I was kind of looking for a father figure because my father wasn't like really there for me.
After Hugh died, the company changed hands until it became a publicly traded entity. But now, Cooper is interested in buying the company's intellectual property and brand assets.
Hugh Hefner's son wants to buy Playboy again for $100 million. Cooper Hefner and a group of investors submitted an offer to Playboy Group that would see the brand once again family-owned more than 7 decades after it was founded by his late father.
Number 8. Drug use and NDAs. Carissa and Christina were 18 when they were offered star roles alongside Hugh Hefner in The Girls Next Door. 13 years later, the twins alleged they had been diagnosed with PTSD.
Hi, I'm Christina. And I'm Carissa. And we're at one of our favorite places of the mansion, the pool and the infamous grotto.
Christina called the Playboy Mansion a golden prison and said that when they broke the rules, guards locked them in their room. On the night they turned 19, they alleged Hugh took them clubbing before offering them pills and inviting them to his bedroom for intercourse together. Carissa later learned she was pregnant with Hugh's baby. He was 85 years old. Carissa had a secret abortion and later confirmed it was the right decision.
I didn't want him to know that I was pregnant. I didn't want him to want me to have it. I didn't want to be stuck even more inside that bubble.
Hugh would allegedly have an arsenal of Quaaludes to feed to women. A former director of Playboy Promotions claims she saw playmates overdose on drugs.
And the men knew this, that they could get girls to do just about anything they wanted if they gave them a Quaalude.
Lisa, Hugh's executive assistant, admitted there were Quaalude prescriptions under various names, including her own and Hugh's. Some of the former playmates have also alleged that they had to sign NDAs. However, after Hugh's death, some have felt a responsibility to set the record straight and publicly share their story. Number 9. Hugh Hefner.
I think that in a very real way, I escaped into, in childhood, romantic dreams and fantasies.
Hugh credits an early rejection from a girl for him reinventing himself.
And started referring to myself for the first time as Hef instead of Hugh, changed my wardrobe into what I thought was a little cooler. And it was obviously a way of getting attention.
As far back as the 70s, Hugh has clashed with feminists.
And we don't think that men are going to give up their power and privilege easily because they benefit from oppressing women. They really do. Hefner has built an empire based on oppressing women.
At the 29-room Playboy Mansion, Hugh insisted on spending Christmas Day with all of his girlfriends.
Millions and millions and millions. Like I thought thousands, millions, a billion and one present.
According to former Playmate Isabella St. James, Hugh used money as a weapon. Once a week, Hugh would have the girls line up and beg for their allowance of $1,000, while he publicly critiqued their performance, such as lack of sexual participation.
Most of my life has been a search and a quest for that perfect world that was described in the films and songs.
Holly Madison revealed that their weekly sex sessions were always on Wednesdays and Fridays and had a chore vibe.
When you're doing that, a minute feels like 5.
Zoe Gregory claimed that Hugh took Viagra before having sex with all 7 of his girlfriends at the time. Some have accused him of enabling sexual assaults for his celebrity friends. Susie Krabacher claimed that Hugh drugged and raped her.
This old man with his mouth gaping open was a real thing. He was a real person. It was Hefner. He looked like Satan.
And a lot of the girls that I've fallen in love with look like the girls I saw in those movies.
I came back with short hair and he flipped out on me and he was screaming at me and said it made me look old, hard, and cheap.
Holly Madison claimed that Hugh groomed and verbally abused her, and that he kept explicit photos and films of women to use as blackmail.
I think that women, in the best sense and not in a negative sense, are objects of desire.
A former bunny, PJ Maston, claimed that she was forced to cover up sexual assaults, reported seeing up to 40 or 50 instances covered up, and that bunnies were subjected to monthly weigh-ins while working at the converted club.
I personally know former bunnies that are frightened, shamed, and scared to come forward.
By the time Hugh died in September of 2017 at age 91, of cardiac arrest, he claimed he had slept with over 1,000 women. The autopsy revealed he was suffering from septicemia, a blood infection. E. coli, highly resistant to antibiotics, was also detected in his system. While the Playboy Mansion will always be remembered for its legacy, many stories that have come out after may have tainted it forever. Thanks for watching this episode of Humanity. Be sure to subscribe for more.